Rarely wrong, always right. Sam Mirejovsky here on the What's Right Media Network. Greetings, friends. Happy Friday. Welcome to the program. My email, sam@whatsrightshow.com, sam@whatsrightshow.com, and at What's Right Sam on X, formerly known as Twitter. So the shutdown continues. And one of the biggest questions, I got a listener email about this, in fact, and I responded to you, Ellen, about it because I know there is a temptation on our side to say that Trump is inviting a bad look by proceeding forward with the construction of the ballroom over the East Wing, that it appears to be imperious, royal, king-like, if you will, at a time when many Americans are not getting their paychecks, when we're in amidst a government shutdown, etc. Now, I think we should not buy into the mainstream media narrative, and I'm of the opinion that Trump actually is coming out of this looking very robust and active because, after all, the border is secure. We have ICE out there enforcing our immigration laws in a way that was promised by Trump, promised during the campaign, and it is another example of a promise made, promise kept. It appears to be funded. None of that is slowing down. We have Trump engaged in meaningful tariff conversations, trade conversations. He's spanking Canada at the same time, sealing up deals with other trade partners. We have Trump going around the world, putting us once again, the United States, again in the driver's seat when it comes to international affairs, all without starting any wars. I mean, everywhere you look, Trump is being active. He's successful. He is accomplishing things. And meanwhile, the Democrats in Congress cannot get, 6, 7 votes to reopen the government? It's literally what we need. There are 100 votes in the Senate total, 60 if Republicans continue to keep the filibuster. They could vote to eliminate it. And some have suggested that they ought to. Make it a simple majority vote and end the nightmare. Thune, for the time being, he's the Senate Majority Leader. He is reticent to do this. Thune is a traditionalist when it comes to Senate procedure and decorum. So he is, and probably made the commitment to senators for getting the job in the vote, probably committed to keep the filibuster. So he's in a tight spot on that. Don't anticipate that ending anytime soon. Could happen. I don't know. But regardless, they need 60 votes. We have 53, if you count, let's say, Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski, among a few other rhinos. So if you put all this, so 7 Democrats, that's all it takes. The Democratic Party cannot get 7 senators to vote yes on a continuing CR. I don't know. How does this make Trump look bad? I mean, Trump's doing stuff. He's got a busy calendar. He's using his executive authority, and thanks to the big, beautiful bill, his agenda is fully funded. I made this point early on. It's not like the Democrats here are somehow effective or have been in any way effective at slowing down Tom Homan and his ICE raids. It's not like this has stopped deployments of the National Guard. Really, anything that Trump is doing isn't slowing down. It's just the Democrats are sitting there with the lights out in Congress complaining that it's the Republicans' fault. And that blame game can't be executed successfully, I think, in the long run. In fact, it's already failing. If you look at the reactions, even on networks such as MSNBC, there's an open questioning by otherwise reliably liberal hosts of the Democrats' strategy. And I think in a final act of idiocy, the Democratic Party is taking all of this time and effort and energy to talk about the East Wing of the White House when they ought to be talking about the shutdown. It's almost like, they stop talking about the East Wing. Trump is a brilliant communications strategist. He has great media instincts. And he also understands that the news cycle can only absorb one or maybe one and a half big things at a time. So the big thing for a while was the shutdown. There's only so much you can say about it, right? So the oxygen ran out on that. The flame of it went out. And Trump right there knew this is when we're going to start construction. First we had no kings, and then bam, presto, construction begins roughly a week later. And by construction, I mean demo. And now it's ignited an entire controversy that we don't need to get back into. We've covered it extensively this week, but my point being is the controversy has extinguished, has consumed, has hidden, has obstructed Democrat messaging vis-a-vis the shutdown. Trust me when I tell you this. If you were a member of the Democratic caucus, you'd be beside yourself right now. Leadership promised you results. You're out there, you're being a good foot soldier, you're towing the party line, you're putting down no votes. And pretty soon the country's going to come after you with pitchforks. It's going to get really nasty in your neighborhood or your condominium or your apartment building where you live as a senator, as a Democrat in Washington. And I say as a Democrat because the Democrats are used to having it easy. I talked about this yesterday. I forgot to mention the obvious thing, which I'm sorry. Republicans are used to getting nasty looks in D.C. I got a story about this, by the way. So I went to a party last Friday night, and the party was, I'm telling any tales out of school. The party was at a venue in D.C. I'll put it this way, a well-known venue in D.C. And the people there were basically, for the most part, all Republicans. There are a few Democrats, but I mean, we're talking people from the administration were there. And there was a bartender working the shift. There's 3-4 bartenders, and one of the bartenders working was obviously trans. And he was, I can't tell, but it was, and not happy. I've never had anybody give me a dirtier look. And I thought, in the back of my head, it reminded me of stories I've heard over the years of how difficult it is for Republicans and for conservatives living in D.C. It's not difficult for Democrats because Republicans are respectful and it's the libs that hate you. Wait for the shutdown. The Republicans, if they get blamed to the extent that they might, are used to dealing with that. It's the Dems that won't know how to handle it. The amount of emotional pressure that is going to come on congressional Democrats is going to be off the charts. They won't know how to cope with it. And where is the highest concentration of people affected by the government shutdown, just by definition, in America? Washington, D.C. It's about to get really, really difficult for our friends on the left. Now, why am I telling you all this? I want you to know why I think this is going to end. Why I think this is ultimately going to result in the Democrats folding. Because the Republicans don't seem to be much affected by this. The polling doesn't seem to hang this on Trump's, around Trump's neck. And it's the Democrats that are getting questioned even by relatively friendly people in the media. Hey, why the hell are you doing this? Just vote for the CR and then have a discussion. Have a debate. Hash it out. Don't make the country suffer. And these problems are compounded by stupid things like the whip, the Democratic whip, doing that disastrous Fox News interview where she says, well, we realize people are going to have to suffer, but this is the only way that we can get political leverage. It is a terrible, terrible look. And the Republicans have already turned that short clip into a campaign ad. They're playing it. They're doing ad buys. This is exactly what the GOP ought to be doing. And the messaging from the Republican side has been spot on, and the Democrats are the ones that are sinking here. But think La Brea tar pit of politics. Sam Mirejovsky on the What's Right Media Network. This hour of the program brought to you by Sam & Ash Injury Law, the only law firm to trust for your injury case. 702-820-1234. 702-820-1234. Offices in Nevada and California, because you deserve what's right.
I'm the best.
Personal injury law has been the same for a long time.
The best.
Big egos, greed, and sleazy schemes. We've had enough. Welcome to Sam & Ash, the new standard for personal injury law, where things are done the right way, because you deserve a team that delivers real support and results. When you have both, your whole world can change. Sam & Ash Injury Law, because you deserve what's right.
Folks, welcome back. The What's Right show is on, brought to you by Sam & Ash Injury Law. Sam Mirejovsky here, Nevada's favorite recovering Californian. Next segment here, just after the break, I think we're going to have Randy Fine, congressman from Florida, on. He got into a little Twitter beef with Mehdi Hasan. And of course, I got to talk about all the stuff going on in New York and the rise of the radical left. Congressman Fine has been following this, so he will join us here on the What's Right show just after the break. I'm talking to the government shutdown, just real fast, a finer point on this. I gotta say, it's going overall from a messaging and polling perspective pretty damn good for Trump and for the Republicans. Now, why do I say this? Because today on CNN, Harry Enton, who's the data guy over there, went through the polling. And for example, on the subject of the economy, right? If you've got a shutdown, people begin to worry about the economy. Well, what is overall interest in the economy? People used to be very worried about the economy. It was a top issue. Much less so today. Here's what Enton says.
Matt was mentioning about the econ playing such an important role in last year's presidential election. The top problem facing the U.S. is economic per Gallup. Last year, look at this, 43% at this time, 43% of Americans said the top problem was economic. Come to this side of the screen. It's just considerably different. We're talking about 24%. We're talking about a drop of nearly 20 points. And more than that, we're talking about across all of the different political groups, right? Democrats, independents, Republicans. We see that the percentage who say the top problem is economic has been falling through the floor. And more than that, we're talking about inflation. The percentage of Americans who say that the top problem is inflation has also been falling, which is, I think, very much surprising given all the news that we are hearing about the economy.
Exactly. Now, people less concerned about the economy generally means that sentiments about the economy have improved or more positive, which, I see some different indicators back and forth, but this is a very positive one. I don't think we're out of the woods, in other words, but certainly people feel much more, less concerned than they did when Biden was in the White House. I know I do. You probably do as well. Now, they then moved, the conversation got into the subject of the economy during midterms, saying how this is historically low. But here's where it got really interesting to me. We're talking about the shutdown. Where has the interest in the shutdown gone? Has it gone up? Has it stayed the same? Has it gone down? So when I tell you, and I have been telling you, that the messaging has been overall good for Republicans, that they're not getting blamed, and that maybe, just maybe, people are not as interested in this, as we might have feared they would be. It's certainly backed up by data shared on CNN this morning.
Harm shutdown is having on the economy, a great deal or quite a bit. Back in 2013, the last time we had this measured during a shutdown, it was 65%. You come over to this side of the screen, again, it's significantly lower. It's 48%. It's less than a majority. So what we're talking about here is, again, fewer Americans are saying the top problem is economic compared to last year and historically. And what we're seeing is fewer Americans are saying that the shutdown is causing a great deal or quite a bit of harm to the economy. So at this particular point, yes, it is true that perhaps Americans don't like the direction that the economy is going, but where it ranks on their list of issues has actually been falling.
Yeah, they're busy talking about a freaking ballroom. This is just crazy. No, I'm telling you, if you have an issue that you think you need the public on, and I happen to think shutting down the government, the only way you can win that fight is if you get the presumption of being in the right behind you. You need to have a significant portion of public opinion behind you. And Democrats aren't able to achieve that. And I think it's in part because they keep letting themselves be taken off message by external forces, such as Donaldus Magnificus. So who's communicating who's messaging on behalf of the Dems? Well, one of the key people is Hakeem Jeffries, who is not a great communicator. And here, in what really should have been a relatively softball interview, Becky Quick on CNBC this morning tries to get an answer out of Hakeem as to why Democrats have created this mess. And here's how this went.
It said what you are asking the Republicans to do right now when they control the White House, the Senate, and the House is effectively what the Democrats could not do when they controlled all three of those heads of government themselves. The 10-year setup for this, for these, or the 3-year setup for the expiration of these credits was intentionally put in. It was put in when you controlled the White House, and the Senate. You couldn't get it passed for longer. And so this is a setup that kind of your own creation that you all couldn't extend beyond that. Now you want the Republicans to do something you didn't do when you were in power?
It's not a setup beyond what we could do. We extended the Affordable Care Act tax credits in 2022 for 3 years. The program is working. It's providing health care to tens of millions of people in an affordable way, and it should be continued.
You know, I have to note this too. In that non-answer is not a single dispute of what she said, which is you put an expiration in this. If it was, Mr. Minority Leader, Mr. Jeffries, Congressman Jeffries, if really this was such a no-brainer and Republicans are just mean people trying to take away people's health insurance, when you had the presidency, the Senate, and the House, why didn't you pass this unlimited? Why did you put an expiration date in there? And that's because you couldn't even get consensus in your own party to have these cuts be permanent. And he can't get around it. He doesn't have an answer for it. Get the stuff about Zimbabwe too. We'll get into all that. They've got all this pork in there that they want. They're demanding all this pork, and then they're getting called out on it too. The Republicans are saying, hey, we got things to hash out. Let's do a clean CR. Very matter of fact, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. The Democrats stuck in some kind of weird mud here. Yeah, this happened on Wednesday, Lindell TV. Hakeem Jeffrey. This is great.
Can you just speak to some of the programs that Democrats want funding for in the $1.5 trillion list of demands? We've heard things like $13.4 million for civic engagement in Zimbabwe, $3.9 million for LGBTQ democracy grants in the Balkans, things like this. You guys say this is about saving healthcare, but how do these pet projects fit
We
in?
have no idea what you're talking about or what Republican extremists fed you those talking points. But the reality is what we are doing is defending the health care of the American people. Yeah, we do want to restore the fact that the largest cut to Medicaid in American history has been visited upon the American people by Donald Trump and Republicans, even though they promised to love and cherish Medicaid. But instead of doing that, they cut about $1 trillion from Medicaid.
Objection non-responsive. All right, folks. Congressman Randy Fine up next here on the What's Right show, brought to you by Sam & Ash Injury Law. Greetings and welcome. The What's Right show is on. Sam Mirejovsky here, Nevada's favorite recovering Californian, behind the What's Right microphone. Now, in studio, I have, joining me, I have Congressman Randy Fine from Florida. Congressman, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me. An honor to be here.
Well, I appreciate you making time for us because I know you and I agree on this issue we're going to talk about. I'm going to play a report here. I don't like to set this up always with a clip, but this was a report out of Minnesota, out of Minneapolis. And this is a CBS Weekend News report, David Schumann reporting. I'm going to play this real fast. I certainly want your input on this. Give me one sec. Here's the clip.
The city of Minneapolis changed its noise ordinance, now allowing the Islamic call to prayer to be broadcast from speakers year-round 5 times a day. In tonight's Weekend Journal, David Schumann of WCCO reports it is a first for a major U.S. city.
The Muslim call to prayer, recited in here, heard out there. 5 times a day, Muslims gather to pray at mosques, but the broadcast for the pre-dawn and nighttime prayers weren't allowed in Minneapolis until now. The city eliminated time constraints from the part of its noise ordinance related to religious worship. In the summer, that means the call could go out as early as 3:30 a.m. and as late as 11 p.m.
Now, this story has been blowing up, and first off, I mean, your reaction to this, your thoughts to this, because I know you got into this with Mehdi Hassan, who's a liberal guy, is obviously Muslim, and he basically came out there and said that this is like church bells. This is no different than a cathedral ringing its bells to mark mass or to mark, time. What say you?
Well, I don't remember a lot of bells being rung at 3:30 in the morning. Look, the fact of the matter is mainstream Islam has not come to America to integrate. It has come to America to conquer. And the call to prayer is exactly that. It is intended to intimidate. It is intended to threaten. It is intended to make demands of people. Church bells have no words. They're just sort of beautiful ringing. And again, I don't remember hearing them at 3:30 in the morning. So folks like Hassan have to understand America is not a Muslim nation. And if they want to be part of a Muslim nation, they ought to move to the 50-plus Muslim countries that there are.
I talk about this a lot, and I've been talking about it for years. I used to be on KBC in LA, and when I still lived in California, and I remember, I talked about it so long ago that people would I called every name in the book, warning about this, and of course here it is taking place because this problem's been going on in Europe, where there is a legitimate occupation of Western Europe, and it's an intent to overthrow Western liberal democracy. So the radical left has joined together with Islam, and it's you see what's happening in Europe now. It's happening in American cities. What is the answer here? What can be done to stop it? And is this administration aware of the problem, and what do you think is going to happen next?
Well, I think there's 3 things that have to happen to stop it. I think the first is we have to pass my No Sharia Act, which would ban Sharia law in the United States, which, make no mistake, this is a call to Sharia law, is a call for conquest. We need to ban it, and we need to say we're not putting up with it. Number 2 is we've got to really crack down on legal immigration to this country. So Democrats had a strategy, and they sort of caught us off guard. Their strategy was flood the zone. And they got us very focused on their flooding the zone with illegals as they imported tens of millions of foreign invaders. But at the same time they were flooding the zone with illegals, they were flooding the zone with legal immigrants. And legal immigrants who do not share our values, who do not wish to integrate into the United States, who do not want to become part of the fabric of the country, but they want to use our values to destroy it. And so we've got to cut off that system and really retool it to make sure that if you want to immigrate to the United States, you love America, you share our values, and you want to join the giant melting pot. And the third thing we need to do is we have to go back and take a look at the tens of millions of people who have immigrated, quote unquote, legally over the past 30 years. The Ilhan Omars, the Mehdi Hassans, the Mamdanis of the world, who clearly came here with an intent to destroy the country, not to swear allegiance to it. And if we can find immigration fraud, something we know is widespread based on reporting also out of Minneapolis, then we need to denaturalize and deport these people.
Well, I agree with you 100%. By way of example, just here in Las Vegas, bringing the story home, there was a report recently put out there of a mosque in Las Vegas that they're heard saying that, God willing, they'll turn Sin City into Halal City, meaning, again, they want to come here to Las Vegas and fundamentally change what Las Vegas is. And it's, by extension, of course, they mean to do that to America too. And, I talk about my parents, legal immigrants to the country, and came here in 1977 after fleeing communism. And they wanted to, with their entire hearts and minds, embrace everything that was America, and absolutely did not want to recreate their homeland here. Quite to the opposite. I think that's the kind of immigrant that we want. When we talk about immigration making this country great and immigrants making this country great, they're contributors and they're people that buy into our culture. And America has a specific culture that is exceptional and sets us apart from the rest of the world. Yep. Do you agree?
Yeah. And by the way, your story is a perfect example about making Sin City Halal City. I guarantee when every one of those people moved to Las Vegas, there were casinos everywhere. I used to live in Las Vegas. They knew exactly where they were moving to, and they shouldn't have moved there if they didn't want to become part of the community. Instead, they moved there for the same reason they moved to America, to conquer and destroy. I believe in legal immigration, but it should be people who love America, want to share its values, and want to integrate into society. But we've allowed people in who hate America, do not share our values, and want to destroy what we have created. And again, people like Ilhan Omar, Mehdi Hassan, Mamdani, they are examples. They did not come here to be part of the great American melting pot. They came here to destroy it. In Florida, where I represent, we have a rule. When people move here from New York, we say, don't bring your stupid New York politics with you. We need the same rule in this country. If you want to come here from Somalia or Yemen or any one of these other places, great, but you leave that behind and you become an American. You do not demand that we listen to your call to prayer at 3:30 in the morning. If you want that, stay home.
Yeah, I mean, imagine the ignorance if you and I decided we didn't want to live in a Muslim majority country and we moved to Saudi Arabia and to Riyadh and just, decided that we were going to make them be more American. I mean, it's the arrogance of it is astounding. Real quick on the subject, and you've brought him up a couple times. I've been talking and warning about Mamdani for a while. Why should every American, whether they live in Florida or they live in Nevada or any state outside of New York City, be concerned with Mr. Mamdani's, what seems to be his meteoric political rise and his likely ascent to the mayor's mansion there in New York?
Well, people should be concerned because he is a communist jihadist who seeks the destruction of the United States. And people should be concerned because that will start with our greatest city, New York. They should be concerned because we can see how this movie ends. We can look at what is now the United Islamic Kingdom, an amazing country that had created so much culture and so much beauty that has now fallen to Islam and is no longer the country that it once was. We're only a few years behind. And frankly, there are not many places left where the conquest has not taken place. Make no mistake, if you watch videos of imams in mosques across the country, they do not hide what their intention is. There are hundreds of these videos, not secret camera videos, open, transparent videos where they state their goal is to conquer us. And so we've got to fight back, because if we don't, we're going to end up just like the United Islamic Kingdom, and that's not a place I want to live.
No, I think it's something that we don't realize. Americans, we can be big-hearted and maybe even sometimes a little bit naive because we believe in the freedom of religion. And the reality is Islam, when practiced in its orthodoxy, is not a religion; it's a political system. And we're getting taken over. There's no question about it. Well, I very much appreciate your time. I know you're a very busy. Quick last question here: how does the shutdown end? I know you guys in the House did everything right, and Mike Johnson, you guys got it across the finish line and presented a clean CR. But what are the Democrats going to do in the Senate? Are they going to get 7 votes?
Well, we're going to have to. Here's what we have to understand is we have to forget an assumption that we've held for too long, which is that Democrats want a successful America too. For many of the people I serve with on the Democratic side, hurting America, destroying America is the goal. And shutting down the government hurts America. So they're going to continue it for as long as they can because pain is their purpose. That is their goal. Now, it is my belief that as the pain increases, as people aren't getting paid, I hope they will call Democrat senators and say, open the government. And we only need 5 of them out of 45 to do the right thing. But some of them are celebrating because this is the goal to hurt the country, to stop the Trump agenda, to keep us from doing our work. And so hopefully Americans will pick up the phone, call Democrat senators and say, cut it out.
Yeah, I think the pressures just will keep getting worse for them. Congressman, thank you so much. Have a wonderful weekend and appreciate you being on the What's Right show. We'll hope to have you back again soon.
Anytime. Thanks for having me.
Sam Mirejovsky here on the What's Right Media Network. Back after this. Hi, Sam Mirejovsky here, the sage of Southern Nevada, behind the What's Right microphone. Greetings, friends. It was great to have Congressman Randy Fine on. Congressman Fine represents Florida's 6th congressional district, but he's really at the forefront of this fight against political Islam, and that's what I'm going to start calling it. I think it's really political Islam that intends to conquer the West, including the United States. And they have a plan, and they've set it out in the open. Congressman Fine made this point, right, that they're basically saying these things openly in their mosques, in presentations. And here's a supercut of various people talking, but notice how one of these guys says, hey, it's by the ballot or by the bullet that we take over. It's really horrifying stuff.
Now it's getting through Congress. So before it was by the sword, now it's getting themselves into parliament and then making laws that act as the sword, the Islamophobia law in Canada, M103.
Yeah.
Muslim Brotherhood. I find that there are only 2 things which are open to our movements. Ballot or bullet, nothing in between.
I used to say that democracy is haram. Now I say participation in democracy is our jihad. That's our jihad. We're going to fight not through the bullets, but the ballots.
Going to the ballot and voting is now an obligatory action, fard ayn. And it is a jihad that is now needs to be done because this is our modern jihad. You can elect a person who wants the Sharia.
Because in the United States, what we do know is that in the past election, just this last election, there have been over 800 Muslim candidates running for office.
We may end up with about 50 members of Congress in the next 6 years. That's really the essence of dismantling the system of injustice is to replace it with the people who represent the Prophet ﷺ.
Yeah, replace the system. By the way, that guy who's got the thick accent, who, if you're not watching on the Sam Cam, you know, has a rather Talibanic-like look to him, is in Ohio. These people are all saying these things in the U.S. I don't know. Is it reasonable to say that this is the enemy from within? And can I add another kind of sobering thought to this? The fact that we feel uncomfortable saying these things, the fact that we feel uncomfortable saying, you know, maybe we shouldn't have Islamic immigration to the U.S. Maybe any person that comes from a majority Muslim country needs to be extra thoroughly vetted before they are allowed in. The fact that we feel uncomfortable, what's caused that? It's caused by Western liberalism and the great myth that multiculturalism trumps all, and that having any kind of reservation about someone, having a lack of empathy for another, is inherently evil, wrong, and, you know, and unacceptable. Professor Gad Saad talks about this in his book, Suicidal Empathy. Liberalism has made us so empathetic that we are inviting our ultimate destruction. And it's happening. It's objectively happening. I don't know, do you want in your neighborhood at 3:30 in the morning to hear him, la 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 la, right? I'm asking. Be honest. You don't have to. I'm the guy saying it on the radio. You can nod along in the car. What I'm telling you here is fundamentally common sense stuff. And the fact that we're not allowed to say it without getting enormous, you know, blowback is just insanity. You think that our Constitution protects us from this, but if every single judge on the Supreme Court has been chosen by any of these people that appeared in this, you know, clip that I just played, I can tell you without any doubt that the Constitution will be rewritten and enforced in such a way that it will not resemble anything like what we have now. That's the fundamental truth here. Yeah, Congressman Fine said that the UK has fallen. I always have this. Maybe I'm naive. Maybe it's my optimism. I'm an inherently optimistic person, and I tend to be positive. Even when I'm deeply worried about things, I always think we're going to be worried about it. We're going to identify the problem. We're going to fix the problem, and we're going to solve the problem, right? We're going to get past it. That's sort of how my brain operates. I have a can-do spirit. It's very American. And also, I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm an attorney, and this is how I function. I don't understand the word no or can't or won't. So yeah, sometimes people around me are a little annoyed by this. No, we can do it. It can't happen. So I think in my head, well, if the UK wakes up, can there be a reckoning? Can they solve this problem before it's too late, before they've been fully conquered? But I don't know. Maybe they can't. But I know we can. But we need to wake the F up. And we can't sit around as conservatives. We can't sit around and go, oh, I don't want to be called Islam. I'm not Islamophobe. I'm not a hater. I'm not an Islamophobe. I'm a nice person. Being a nice person won't matter one lick when you're getting your head chopped off. Okay? I mean, I hate to be sobering about this. You cannot overcome what's coming. by, with good vibes. And this is what separates, really the conservative brain from the liberal brain, because the liberal brain has Pollyannish thinking and thinks if I'm just going to be nice to people, then they're going to be nice back and it's all good. And because these Muslim politicians are nice to the liberals and are communing with the liberals feel that there's solidarity there and everything's kumbaya. And they don't realize that they're getting used. Once they're in the majority, the first people to go, the first people that are going to get are going to be there. Well, maybe I'll go first, and then then anybody else that was the trans influencers are certainly not going to. They're not long for this world and the United States caliphate. All right, folks, top of the hour here. Sam Mirejovsky behind the What's Right microphone. Email me if you think I'm way off. Can't wait to get reamed for this segment. Sam@whatsrightshow.com is the email. Top of the hour news. Be back just after it. So hang tight. Another hour of the What's Right show coming right up. Making radio great again. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. Yes, happy Friday. Hoping for a quiet weekend. Not going to lie, it's been a busy week here, so I'm going to get to it here. But before I do, I got to come back to this because I keep getting emails from you guys are sending me great emails, by the way. I'm going to call it ballroom derangement syndrome. Okay? I have 2 points I want to make. And one I've already made previously, but because I keep getting asked about this, let me repeat myself. And it is a word of common sense. Because, of course, here on the What's Right show, we practice common sense conservatism. If you believe that this project is just, I'm talking about the East Wing knockdown, tear down of the existing structure, which now apparently has happened. If you think that this is just about Trump's vanity, you've lost the plot. I am more convinced today than I was yesterday. And I think I'm the first person to really point out that the East Wing is over the Peoc, over the presidential bunker, and that this building that's 70, 80 years old has been, for years, presumed inadequate to protect the entrance to the Peoc. And that the military and the Secret Service and everybody has wanted to fortify the structure above it. There's only one way to do that. Tear it all down. Well, of course, remove the interiors, preserve the interiors, but then tear it all down and go deep with concrete, with rebar, with all the stuff that we have, that we know how to build, and fortify the whole thing, including the roof. So that's one thing, right? And then I see, yesterday, the day before, there was this clip, and did we play it yesterday on the program, Robbie? Did we play the ABC News, whatever it was, the CBS report of the gal doing the report on the construction at the Obama White House? Did we do this? Load that clip for me real fast, Robbie, because I want to make a point here. Look at that. Robbie's just on the nose here. Here's a report from the Obama years in the White House about a massive construction project at the White House.
Sounds like they're building another wing to the White House, but we appreciate you keeping your focus.
You can't even imagine, TJ. It's going to happen for the next 2 years. All of the banging, the jackhammering, the dust, the confusion, the noise of all places to do construction is happening right here, the front lawn of the White House.
It's a 4-year renovation project. Estimated cost, $376 million.
Okay. Now, people have come out to say, well, this was just for some pipes. And if you look it up, that's really what it was, infrastructure. They didn't touch the main building. They were digging up the grass and putting in pipes. If you believe that $370 million was spent just to dig up pipes, you're crazy. Okay? Not 15 years ago money. This is before Biden inflation. Okay? That's a lot of money. That obviously, 4 years, $370 million, that obviously, those were security upgrades of some kind. And we don't know about them because we shouldn't be informed about them because they're confidential, secure, classified. That's, there to protect the president of the United States. It is in my interest and your interest that the president be protected. And I don't care which president it is. I don't care if it's Obama or Biden or Trump or whoever the next guy or gal will be. This is why, okay, the next president, if some fluke occurs and it ends up being a Democrat who's run on a platform to tear down Trump's ballroom, if by fluke that person gets elected, he's not going to be tearing down the ballroom. Because the military is going to sit his money down and look at him and say, sir, with all due respect, no. It is there to protect you, your life, your family's life, and the continuity of government for the United States of America. Should all hell break loose. And if it's Gavin Newsom, because Gavin Newsom wants to be the next guy in the White House, he'll literally there'll be a puddle underneath him. He will lose control over his bladder as these generals are basically sternly telling him all the reasons why, what could happen, how much the president was at risk before this upgrade was done. And of course, the end result will be the ballroom will stay. I'm just telling you this. Bookmark this, Robbie. Friday, October 24th, 2025. The ballroom will stay. All right. I have another point about this that I have not yet made. And I was emailing, by the way, you can always email me, sam@what'srightshow.com, earlier with a listener about this, uneasy about the money spent on the ballroom. And I have a reframe for you that nobody is making this argument on TV, on Twitter, anywhere, which is the answer to Whoopi Goldberg and everybody else getting the vapors over $300 million getting spent on this ballroom when Americans are suffering and the shutdown is going on and all this stuff, and these companies should be spending their money elsewhere and on better things. Coupled together with the argument that these companies are looking to influence the Trump administration, right? By the Trump administration's, good graces. I have a reframe. I have a different way of thinking about this. You know what it is? Here are two scenarios. Bunch of individual companies and high net worth individuals donate money to build a ballroom at Mar-a-Lago. That's scenario one. Scenario two. A bunch of high net worth individuals, companies, same group of people, donate money, millions of dollars, to build a ballroom at the People's House, at the White House, something for America. So first, and I say this as a conservative, right? First, as a conservative, it's their money. It belongs to the companies that donated. It belongs to the individuals that are donating it. It's their money. I want to hear Whoopi Goldberg. I don't give a flying rat's rear end what she thinks is a better, higher use of that money. It's not up to her because this isn't communism. Mamdani's not president yet. But what's the difference between A and B? Obviously, donating to something that would be there on Trump's property, donors giving money for that. That's what the Clintons did, right? That's what the Clintons did. They took donations and built a lavish lifestyle for themselves Trump already has a ballroom at Mar-a-Lago. He already has a palatial estate. Mar-a-Lago, far more comfortable than the White House, by the way. Trump is trying to improve the White House, and he may not even see the end of construction of this. It may not actually even benefit him. Nobody's saying this. I mean, what do you think this is going to be built in 6 months? He might get 2 years out of it. If things just go gangbusters fast. Maybe not even. You see, some couple went to court, demanded that a judge issue an injunction against Trump building this thing. Have you seen this? Trump is an experienced real estate developer. And I say that because every real estate developer understands it's very easy, actually, to quickly get a permit to demo, and that demo is the quickest part of the project, generally speaking. So, if you're dealing with a problem like a historical building or something that has could have legal challenges to you removing it, the best thing to do is to pull the permit and run and immediately demo the structure. All of it right away. Boom. Done. And then what's the judge going to say? Well, the issue's moot. The technical legal word for saying it can't be reviewed anymore because the structure's already gone. Literally, it's been hauled away. There's nothing for me to do here. It's not going to order them to leave it bare, so now it's going to get rebuilt. So I'm just pointing some things out. I promise you that behind the scenes, they're going to the judge saying, hey, you know what? This is a matter of national security. You have no basis to get involved. Just drop it. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840, KXNT, the What's Right show, brought to you by Sam and Ash Injury Law, because you deserve what's right.
The Sam and Ash team, they wanted me to have the best care. They had my interests at heart. I have an enormous amount of gratitude. I cannot say enough thank you.
Folks, welcome back. Sam Mirejovsky here. This hour of the program brought to you by Sam and Ash Injury Law. So, obviously, what my day job is as a practicing attorney, Nevada and California. I handle injuries at Sam and Ash. And this crash that happened a couple days ago in California and Ontario, 3 people dead, illegal immigrant charged now in those 3 deaths, DUI on top of it, 21 years old, had a commercial driver's license, work authorizations issued by the Biden administration. Do you know how many cases I see on a daily basis? I mean, every day we have clients calling us that they have been hit by an uninsured illegal immigrant driver. Can I please, so important if you don't listen to anything else that I say, as practical advice, even if it's a small financial sacrifice for you, please get uninsured motorist coverage. Get it. I know that the state just requires you to have liability, but uninsured, underinsured coverage will protect you if you get into an accident. This isn't, I don't have, trust me, there are no insurance companies that are advertising on this program. This is not me. This is not me doing an ad. Insurance companies hate me. No, they like me. We're good. I mean, we're one of the better firms that they like to work with because we're honest and upfront, but we're firm with them. But this isn't an ad. It's not a shtick. I'm telling you, there are so many people driving uninsured, unlicensed. They're high as a kite. They're drunk. And you think something will happen to your, car. All of a sudden, imagine you get hit by an uninsured, unlicensed driver and you don't have uninsured motorist. We sometimes can find a creative, way around some things, but oftentimes, you're just stuck with no path of recovery. Don't put yourself in that position. So I'm putting the story out. By the way, Gavin Newsom put out a statement to Fox News. I almost threw up. This is it. This is what he put out there. So obviously Gavin Newsom is responsible for this because this guy is the defendant here, the defendant driver who caused this wreck, snuck into the country, was able to remain in the country because in California, it's a sanctuary state. They were protected at all times by the California authorities. And then on top of it, of course, the Biden administration. So Newsom puts out a statement, quote, "This is a tragic situation, and as with every tragedy, over the last 10 months, Secretary Noem has ordered Secretary Duffy to look for every opportunity to manipulate the facts to score cheap political points. But the federal government," this is what Gavin Newsom is saying, "the federal government needs to look within before they can cast blame outside. The federal government approved and renewed this individual's federal employment authorization multiple times." Now, okay, I think he just threw Biden under the bus. This guy crossed into the country in, I think, March of 22. He was released into the U.S. by the Biden administration. You can apply for a work authorization 6 months after making an asylum claim. So this was all done before Trump. And every time Trump rolls up with ICE to deport these people, what's Newsom saying here? Well, the federal authorities gave him a work authorization. They legitimized him as an illegal immigrant. Okay. Every time Trump rolls up with ICE, Tom Homan shows up, what are the Democrats doing, including Gavin Newsom? They're arguing against immigration enforcement. This statement is so repulsively disingenuous. I'm almost at a loss of words. How dare you, Governor Newsom? I'm infuriated by this. 3 people are dead, countless injured, because why? A guy with no respect for our country, with no dignity, common dignity, coming from a place, he's from India. Human life is cheap in India. There's a lot of people there. India is a fundamentally different country than the United States of America. And there are Indian people here who I love in the U.S., right? But they've bought in to America. You know, one way that you don't buy into America, to me, in my book, is when you come here illegally. When you start your relationship with our country on a fraud, right? This comment. So the guy that comes to the country illegally, who then claims to apply for asylum from India. India's asylum. Okay, he's persecuted in India. What the hell is this? It's not like they're going around rounding people up in India. It's not the Taliban. So he applies for asylum fraudulently. Okay, and you think this guy's going to follow all the other laws? This is like when I talk about lawyers who cheat, who solicit people at the scene of a car accident. We have this going on. It's in LA, it's in Vegas, it's everywhere, and these lawyers use basically criminal gangs, people that suddenly show up at the scene of an accident are like, hey, my cousin's a lawyer, whatever, but they're getting paid cash. And it's illegal. It's actually a felony here in Nevada. And the lawyer participating in it can be disbarred and can go to jail over it. There's a prominent lawyer who you've seen advertised who's being investigated by the state bar right now in Nevada over this. And I always tell people, do you want to go with an attorney and be represented by a lawyer who's willing to commit felonies just to begin their relationship representing you, like begin your client-attorney relationship on that note. The same thing for immigrants. Do I want an immigrant here who's willing to break the law to begin their relationship with America as a lawbreaker? I mean, it's a fair question, right? I don't know. I think this is a horrific case. Every person in the California government who enabled this guy to get a commercial driver's license, which is not issued by the feds, it's issued by the state of California, should go to prison. Trump should arrest Newsom. I know it sounds crazy. Maybe I'm just really pissy about this right now, but people have died. People have died. And I represent people who have loved ones that have been killed in brutal, avoidable accidents that aren't accidents. They're crashes because people made deliberate choices on the roads. Some of you listening, hopefully, maybe, hopefully not, but may have experienced this yourselves. Every person in the California government that allowed this person to be on the road, even though they absolutely should not have been, deserves to face consequences. Let's take a quick break. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840, KXNT. Rarely wrong, always right, folks. Sam Mirejovsky here for your listening pleasure and all-around edification. The What's Right Show brought to you by Sam and Ash Injury Law. A lot of people are talking about Candace Owens, and I'm not even going to do it. I'm not doing it. But I did see a great comment because the stuff that Candace is saying now is just so bananas. And I saw a comment. Somebody writes online, I guess it turns out Brigitte Macron, the First Lady of France, is a woman after all. A point being, of course, that now that Candace has gone fully off the deep end, her assertions that some people took seriously that the First Lady of France was in fact a transgender man, not so persuasive anymore. All right. I'm going to talk about Tucker, though. I'm going to talk about Tucker. Because there's something that he put out on his kids, making the rounds, his clip about terrorism. And the context here, if I'm not mistaken, had to do with Gaza, right? But let me play the clip. It gets into the definition of terrorism, which Tucker explains as the killing of innocents. Let me play the clip. Here's what he said.
And if you think you're going to get me into some semantic game about who's a terrorist and who's not a terrorist, killing people who committed no crime is wrong. Period. That's the basis of Christian belief. It's the basis of Western civilization. Dropping bombs on people who did nothing wrong is a crime. Period. That is why we say we are better than the terrorists, because we don't kill people who did nothing wrong. And
okay. So terrorism is dropping bombs, killing people that did nothing wrong. All right, that's the premise. Now, I always start any conversation about this, I always begin with heart-wrenching stories from my grandparents who grew up in, lived their entire lives in the Czech Republic, what was then Czechoslovakia, and lived obviously through the war. My father was born in the midst of World War II in 1941, and has some vague memories, toward the end of the war. But by the end of the war, they were in Nazi-occupied Czechoslovakia, and Prague and surrounding areas were subject to aerial bombardment by the Allies. And my paternal grandfather, recounted many times the story of coming home from work and wondering if his home, his apartment building, would be standing, wondering if his family was going to be okay. And that's something that happened. That's something that happened to my family, not that far removed from it. I mean, my father could have been eliminated by an Allied bomb. And then you all would not have to suffer with listening to me on the radio every day. Now, I bring this up because the question I have is, was Allied bombardment of my family moral? Now, I mean, you can make a broad argument that all war is bad, but you have to start getting very consistent about it. Right? You do. I'm not one of those people that wants to revisit the morality of Hiroshima because I think we're so far removed. And I'm bringing up Hiroshima because there's probably no greater erasure of innocent life, quote unquote innocent life, right? Civilian life in war in an instant as there was with Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the two atom bombs dropped on Japan. We were at war. How many lives would be lost conquering Japan, hand-to-hand combat? Japanese weren't giving up. They were a formidable enemy. The bomb hastened the end of the war. These are things that, we've philosophically struggled with. I'll tell you what I think of when I think of terrorism. I think of terrorism as the deliberate targeting of innocents when there's no other military value, right? To the goal, right? Of throwing the bomb, of shooting the bullet, whatever it is. I think of terrorism when terrorists get on a plane and hijack a plane with civilian pilots, civilian passengers, no military targets, and kill those people or hold them hostage in order to extract political concessions. I think of terrorism when the hijackers hijack planes and fly them into buildings that don't house government offices. You can argue that the attack on the Pentagon wasn't terrorism, that it was an act of war. Okay? We can have that conversation. But not flying into the World Trade Center. And Tucker, to me, is losing the plot on a just core sort of intellectual level. He is so he's become so intently anti-Israel that he can't get out of his own way. And he's now turning himself into an absolute pretzel over the term terrorism and calling any act of war terrorism. The only act of war that wouldn't be terrorism is a precise, laser-guided, perfect missile that only gets the stated target, the general or the attaché or the soldier or whoever it is who's wearing a uniform. You know what the irony is about Tucker? You know what the irony is about this argument? Killing of innocents. He's talking about children, but I'm innocents in a broader way. And I mean innocent people, innocents, plural. The irony of it, of course, is that terrorists, the real terrorists, the ones that, Tucker doesn't want to get into a semantic word argument over, right? They don't wear uniforms. Hamas only wears a uniform when they have a parade, when they do a slick TV production, social media. They don't wear uniforms when they are operating. And furthermore, where does Hamas set up their headquarters? Where do they put their weapons cache? Their weapons depot? Where do they put their command and control centers? Where do they hide their leadership? Under schools, under hospitals, under kindergartens, daycares. I'm getting to the point. I still want to. There's things that Tucker says, of course, in the course of a week that I agree with, but what the hell is this? And I'm not someone who wants to get into, well, he's been bought and paid for by Qatar. I don't even know. Like, something in his brain broke. It's just broken. I am absolutely certain that children died in this war. There's no question. And I'm talking about Gaza. I have no doubt. Like, none whatsoever. Is that a good thing? Of course it isn't. I can't. Every death of an innocent human being is abhorrent. But my gosh, how do you prosecute a righteous war? And eradicating Hamas, an organization that has gone out of their way to come and invade your country and actually terrorize people, they went into houses one by one, deliberately targeting houses, families, kidnapping people. They didn't go and just attack the military. They didn't search out command and control centers. I'm talking about October 7th. They didn't do any of that. See the difference? If you don't see the difference, I don't know. Like, to me, it's glaring. To me, the definition of terrorism is pretty clear. You're deliberately targeting. If we find out that Israel deliberately dropped a bomb on a kindergarten just to kill children, and that there was not a legitimate military target anywhere near it, you got me. Deliberately. Now, do bombs go places you don't want them to go? Obviously. But I tell you, what I know is Israel spends a lot of effort, energy, and puts their soldiers' lives at risk to minimize collateral damage. Hamas doesn't do that. They want collateral damage of their own people to score political points. That's terrorism. What a despicable take. Sam Mirejovsky, here on the What's Right Media Network. Be right back, folks. Great point, Robbie. Great point. We'll definitely share that here as we get underway. Sam Mirejovsky behind the What's Right microphone. Greetings, friends. Welcome to the What's Right show. Robbie and I talking just during the break about the Tucker Carlson clip, and of course my points about what is terrorism. And, Tucker making the case that the killing of innocents, killing of children, for example, just absolutely fundamentally despicable, and it's a terroristic act. Doesn't matter who commits it. Here's looking at you, Israel. You guys are terrorists too. And Robbie reminded me of this. Do we all remember that the October 7th terrorists who infiltrated, broke into Israel and attacked that day, that all of them, most of them had cameras, had GoPro cameras, basically body cameras to capture point of view of the murders that they were committing? And you remember that they would kill, savagely slaughter an Israeli family. And they could be seen and heard on the video using the cell phone of a family there and calling their mother, their father, and shouting, "Hey, Mom! Hey, Dad! I killed some Jews! Allah Akbar!" What if an Israeli soldier did that? And better yet, what if the Israeli army proudly published those videos and used it in their recruitment? You guys get to just go in and slaughter families in Gaza. That's what you get to do. You want to join the IDF? That's what you... Here, this is what we do. They obviously don't do that. If some person in the IDF did this, they would be arrested, thrown in the brig, and tried. They'd go to jail. Like, this is objectively would not be okay in Israel. If you think that it would be, I think you've bought into some of the propaganda. So it's a great point. It's a great point. I honestly, in the ranking of existential threats that we face as a country, Israel is our friend and our ally, and the one reliable ally in a sea of insanity in the Middle East. Let me tell you that. All right. Speaking of insanity, J.B. Pritzker went on Fox News, sat down with Bret Baier. The interview did not go particularly well, given that Bret Baier started to ask Governor Pritzker, the big man himself, about crime rates in Illinois and Chicago specifically. This was something else. All right, here's how it started.
Why does Chicago have the highest murder rate of all the big cities?
Well, we are not in the top 30 in terms of our murder rate. Indeed,
well,
our murder rate it has been cut in half over the last 4 years, and every year it's gone down by double digits. And if you look at all of the violent crime over the last 4 years,
here's a map.
They've all gone down.
U.S. cities, 17.47 per 100,000 population. Chicago is number one over Philadelphia, Houston, Dallas, San Antonio, Phoenix, Los Angeles, New York, and San Diego.
What I'm explaining to you is when you want to fight crime, look, you can pull statistics up.
No, these are murders.
I'm explaining to you that our murder rate has been cut in half. And very importantly, Brett, and you got to hear this, very importantly, we've been doing the things that are necessary to bring crime down, right? We've invested in community violence interruption. We've invested in police.
He doesn't want to hear it. Like, the numbers are objective, and this is after the Illinois authorities are done cooking the books. The numbers are obvious. Number one, Chicago has more crime than LA, than Phoenix, San Antonio, Houston, Dallas, New York, San Diego. And Pritzker's answer is, what I'm explaining to you is that crime is down. This is some level of delusion. Here's how the interview continued.
Should the Virginia Attorney General nominee, Jay Jones, drop out of the race over those texts that have been the focus of this race?
Yeah, I think that the text that I think everybody points to, he's apologized about that. People make mistakes. They do.
So he shouldn't drop out.
It's one thing if someone's doing it repeatedly, right? If you're making comments repeatedly that are, like that, no doubt that was an offensive thing to write.
You've donated $20,000 to Jay Jones' campaign.
Yeah, this is it. So this is what the Democratic Party is. By the way, Pritzker is, don't downplay it, he's got presidential ambitions. He's well-funded and well-fed. His family owns the Hyatt hotel chain and brand. So he is a billionaire. And he really does. He will run in the Democratic primary. There's very little doubt of that. They deny reality when it comes to the actual, results of their regimes, and then they deny reality when it comes to fellow Democrats getting caught, like Jay Jones was, doing really deplorable, awful stuff that it disqualifies him. Certainly from holding an office that makes him the top law enforcement officer as Attorney General of the Commonwealth of Virginia, and I would argue that disqualifies him from politics, public office generally. This is bad. This is the state of the Democratic Party. So, I don't know. I worry, right? I worry that as the Democrats will continue to double down on these insane policies. When you look at that terrible crash in California, 3 people dead, countless people injured, illegal immigrant, validated by the Biden administration, allowed to be in the country, given a driver's license, a commercial driver's license by the state of California. At every step of the way, that individual was enabled by the Democratic political machine. And that has happened for 4 years at scale and actually, frankly, well before that, and still continuing in California as these blue states actively resist the federal government's efforts to clean up illegal immigration, to clean up crime, want to deny that crime generally is real, catch and release criminals, misdemeanor tickets for theft, all of this stuff. It'll lead to a Gotham-like situation. And frankly, that's what New York's, they'll elect this Mamdani guy. They'll end up like Gotham, straight out, dark, crime-ridden, waiting for Batman. Good luck with that. Sam Mirejovsky, here on the What's Right Media Network. Friends, I'll see you